We built them to celebrate our greatest invention. We turned them into architectural masterpieces, hovering over highways like cathedrals of glass and steel. And then we erased them. We stripped away the art, removed the humanity, and left behind an invisible network of cold, metallic boxes. How did Europe's grand temples of speed become the loneliest places on Earth? 1. The accidental pioneer, the story of the fueling station, doesn't begin at a pump. It begins in a pharmacy. The date is August 5th, 1888. The location, Wiesloch, a quiet town in southwestern Germany. A woman named Bertha Benz has just undertaken the first long-distance automobile journey in human history, a daring 106-kilometer drive from Mannheim to Pforzheim. She is driving her husband, Karl Benz's patent motorwagen number 3, but midway through the journey, she runs out of fuel. He pulls up to the Stadtapotheke, the city pharmacy, not for medicine, but for a petroleum-based cleaning solvent called Ligroen. Pharmacist Willie Ockel hands her the glass bottle. At that exact moment, this humble apothecary inadvertently becomes the world's first filling station. For the next 30 years, buying fuel was a dirty, hazardous, and rudimentary chore. But between 1919 and 1933, the Bauhaus movement swept across Europe, preaching a new gospel, the marriage of function and art. As the automobile shifted from a billionaire's toy to an instrument of mass liberation, Europe's leading modernist architects realized something profound. The automobile was the future, and the future required a temple. Scene 2. The Toadstool of Skovshoved. The year is 1936. 33-year-old Danish architect named Arne Jacobsen receives a commission from the Texaco Oil Company. His task: design a fueling station for the wealthy coastal suburb of Skovshoved, north of Copenhagen. What Jacobsen delivered was not a fueling station. It was a sculpture, gravity-defying concrete mushroom cap. Locals immediately nicknamed it Svampen, the toadstool, a single dramatic cantilever 48 feet across, ring just 14 feet above the ground. The canopy's underside was embedded with rows of lights, angled to wash illumination across the outer edge of the canopy. At night, the light reflected downward, turning the entire structure into a glowing, uniform beacon. It didn't scream for attention with cheap neon. It commanded respect. The organic curves of this very canopy would go on to inspire Jacobsen's world-famous ant chair in 1952. Refueling was no longer a chore. It was an interaction with high art. 3. The highway leader by the late 1950s, Europe was gripped by a post-war economic miracle. The Italians carved the autostrada through their mountains, creating a theater of unprecedented speed. To combat the fatigue of these endless mega-highways, biscuit entrepreneur Mario Pavesi teamed up with Milanese rationalist architect Angelo Bianchetti. Together, they conceived an architectural marvel. The Autogrill, these were not mere parking lots. They were futuristic pavilions. Bianchetti pioneered the bridge-type Autogrill. His 1959 masterpiece in Fiorenzuola d'Arda, nicknamed the Transatlantico, was built in just 4 months. Stretched 70 meters long, arching 5.5 meters directly over the motorway, drivers would pull in, refuel, ascend grand staircases into suspended glass-walled restaurants. Imagine sitting at a white-clothed table, sipping espresso from a gleaming Fama machine, while cars hurtled beneath your feet at 100 miles per hour. The Autogrill was a symbol of Italian optimism. It was Europe celebrating its own momentum. The six as the secte. Aztec 4, the non-place and the darkness, but the cracks were already forming, quietly, invisibly. Before the crisis even arrived, through the 1960s, Shell, BP, and Esso hired global branding consultants. They didn't want architecture. They wanted logos, identical, repeatable, corporate logos, stamped onto identical, repeatable, corporate boxes from Oslo to Naples. The grand individual vision of Jacobsen, of Bianchetti, was already being quietly strangled by the boardroom. Then came the winter of 1973. The boardroom finished the job. Overnight, the price of crude oil quadrupled. European governments implemented emergency rationing and slashed speed limits. Profit margins evaporated. Corporate boardrooms across Europe went into survival mode. To save their bottom line, again, they ruthlessly eliminated the single most expensive component of the fueling station. They eliminated the humans. Driven by the need to cut labor costs, the automated payment systems emerged. Fifthens. Originating heavily in Sweden and France, the unmanned self-service station spread like a virus. The architectural poetry of the 1930s was replaced by standardized factory-produced steel boxes designed solely for maximum throughput. In his 1992 book, French anthropologist Marc Auger coined a term for these new desolate environments. He called them non-places. A non-place is a space of transience that holds no history, no relational significance, no identity. When you step into an automated petrol station today, you are completely anonymous. You are no longer a citizen experiencing the world. You are merely a consumer interacting with an algorithm. The corporate boardrooms gave us exactly what we subconsciously asked for: speed without pause, fuel without conversation, progress without presence. In the 1930s, Europe built petrol stations to celebrate human ingenuity and the thrill of the journey. Today, we have engineered them to be invisible. The most damning part? It worked. You can stop there every single week. And 5 minutes after you drive away, you won't remember you were ever there at all. It is a documentary end of documentary